One of the most difficult times for anybody facing a divorce is, what are you going to do for the holidays? Should I file for divorce this holiday? Should I wait until after Christmas to file for divorce? Would it be wrong of me to file for divorce right before the holidays start? There are no right answers and usually a whole lot of wrong ones. So let's dig into it and find out what you should consider and how that decision can be made.
Ruby Bolton is the founding attorney for the Bolton Law Firm, one of the largest law firms specializing in divorce located in Montgomery County, Texas, including a practice in Harris County. Ruby Bolton is board certified as a family law specialist by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. Ruby is a super lawyer designated by Thomson Reuters. Ruby is one of the best, designated by the Houston Chronicle, and she would love to share everything she's learned in the last 30 years with you.
Hi, welcome to Divorce Decoded, where we explore everything that can go wrong in a divorce and what you can do to make sure that it goes right. I'm Ruby Bolton. I'm the founding attorney for the Bolton Law Firm. I have been a divorce attorney for 30 years, and I am board certified as a family law specialist in the state of Texas. So we're going to talk about everything to do with divorce. And one of the questions that I get asked a lot about people who are facing divorce is, when is the best time to file? Is there a time of year that a lot of people file for divorce? And there are a few times of year that we see more, but I think every divorce attorney out across the entire country will tell you what we see the most is a time that people avoid filing. And that time is right around the holidays. Now, you might be thinking, well, which holiday? The biggest holidays in the United States are, of course, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and they come pretty close together. And so what we see in the divorce world is a big slowdown right before you come into the last quarter of the year. And what we see is that people who are thinking, it's becoming inevitable, we're going right down this road where we're going to be filing any moment, a lot of times they think, I want to give the children one last Christmas, or I don't want to be sitting around the Thanksgiving table and everybody in my family is looking at me and thinking, oh my gosh, they're getting divorced and I don't want to be the center of attention in that way. And for that reason, what we see is that nationwide there is a big slowdown in divorce filings at Christmas. But I will tell you that the average length of a divorce in the United States, or at least in the state of Texas, tends to be about 8 months from beginning to end, unless you have a very smooth and uncontested case. And that means that there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be facing the holidays while your divorce is ongoing, no matter when you file. So what do? How do you deal with the holidays in the midst of a divorce? So we're going to talk about that. One of the first things that I see people do is, should we try to do them together? If we're getting divorced, are we going to do the holidays with the husband and wife and the children together, or are we going to split them up so that one person has them for Thanksgiving and another person has them for Christmas? Well, the Texas Standard Possession Order is going to do exactly that. One person gets Thanksgiving and the other person gets Christmas. But you don't have to do what the Standard Possession Order says. Anything that the two of you agree on, the state of Texas is going to allow you to do. So should you try to do the holidays together? I will tell you that this is actually a choice that I made, not only as I was going through divorce, but the year after I got divorced. My ex-husband and I did the holidays together, meaning that, I cooked Thanksgiving dinner and I invited him to come and have Thanksgiving with the family. And I know that that's unusual because, of course, I talk to a ton of people who are getting divorced. And usually, if you're in the midst of, still deciding who's going to get custody or how are you going to, divide assets, there's too many negative feelings around, and that's not possible. So if you're wondering, could I do the holidays together with my ex, the first thing to think about is, would you be able to enjoy the holidays? And even if you would your spouse be able to enjoy the holidays? And could the two of you together have a holiday that the children could enjoy? Or at the end of the day, will everybody just be thinking, wow, that was painful. I am so glad it's over. Thank goodness. This is one more example of why we can never get together. And I think that it's important that neither side put a lot of pressure on the other side to try to do the holidays together. Because if you may feel like you can put on a great show and make it a happy day for your children, and that way you get to see your kids for all of it, but it might be that your almost ex is going to be miserable the entire time. There is a very good chance that at some time one of you or both of you is going to be in another relationship. You won't want to do them together. You won't feel comfortable with it. And I would say, unless it's something that both sides are completely on board with doing and that the children seem on board with doing, you're probably better off not. So, how are the kids going to handle it? I will say here, just like with almost every aspect of children and how they handle a parent's breakup, they're going to take their cue from you. So if you are matter of fact and okay with the fact that the holidays are separate, and it's okay to say, hey, sweetheart, I will miss you. Can't wait to see you. Have a good time. But there's a big difference between the send off and goodbye you give to a kid who's like going to summer camp where they're going to have a good time, or maybe they're going to your parents' house and, hey, it's weekend with granny, and the send off you give a child when you're sincerely worried about them or you're heartbroken and you want to be sure that what you're conveying to your children is that this is not devastating to you. Because if you're horribly upset and sad, they will be as well. Or if they're not terribly upset and sad, well, then a lot of time they're going to feel guilty about the fact that they weren't. And maybe even they will tell you that they were terribly upset and sad, and then they've had a terrible holiday. So you want to give your children a positive cue. And if you think about it, even if, let's say, this year you're going to get both Thanksgiving and Christmas because perhaps their other parent doesn't have a setup, maybe they're too upset about the divorce or they're too distracted or they're not doing it, you're unlikely to get that every time. And so you want to be pleasant and upbeat, and it's okay to express some regret, but you want to think of it as the same level of regret that you would express to your kids when they're going to, a weekend with a friend or summer's camp or something like that. So, what do you do if they just show up? So, when you're going through a divorce, everything is kind of through a microscope, right? Or a magnifying glass. And anything that you can do or that you do might be held up later as an example of why you should or shouldn't have custody or why you're a good parent or a bad parent. And so, if the other side just shows up, it's all right to politely ask them to leave, take them away from the children, speak with them. But if you cannot get them to do exactly what you think they ought to be doing right then, you kind of want to grit your teeth, get through the holidays, and address it later. And it's something that you can bring up at a later time. So, what about after the divorce? So, like I said, Texas standard possession order, one party is going to get Thanksgiving, and they usually get Thanksgiving from the day that school lets out and at the time that school lets out until school resumes after the break. And that's usually a full week. So the first thing that I would say is let your child talk with the other parent. Whether there's anything in your order that says it or not, keep in mind that they're going to have the child for a week next year, and you're probably going to want to speak to that child. So if the child is asking to talk to the other parent, or if the other parent is asking to talk to the child, I would highly recommend that you facilitate that and make it easy. The courts really want to see parents working together. And if somebody calls and says, hey, I just wanted to wish the kids a happy Thanksgiving, and the response of the one parent is, well, it's my time. You're not going to get to do it. You don't get to do it. If the judge hasn't made an order yet, that looks negative on the parent that's refusing. Now, on the same time, if the parent wants to talk to him for an hour and sob and cry and talk about how tragic it is, well, that looks pretty bad too. And if the other parent is calling, crying, hysterical, upset, well, you don't want to pass that on to the child, right? You don't want to embroil the kid in those kind of negative emotions when the child is excited and doing something. And if the other parent calls at a time that's not a good time, let's say all the cousins are, embroiled in a great big game of Stratego or something, it's okay to say, well, they're tied up right now. Can I have them give you a call back in about an hour? Just make sure that if you do that, you follow through and you do give them a call back when that time comes, and try to facilitate a positive relationship. The other thing that I would say is if you are not going to have the children with you, plan in advance for what you are going to do. You likely have a lot of family members that you could have the holidays with. Make plans. If you don't have a family member to spend the holiday with, you can volunteer at one of the charitable organizations to be a helper on that day. You want to have something that you're going to be involved in doing. So if it's Thanksgiving and it's the first Thanksgiving that you haven't had with your children, you're going to feel a lot better when that time comes if you're surrounded by other people that you love that are happy to have you there, or even if you are helping people that are less fortunate. You don't want to leave open that time to just sit back and feel sad and unhappy. I would also encourage you to make your own traditions. Make traditions with your children that you like to do that are unique to you. I remember my mom got a peppermint turkey, I think, that they used to do for Christmas. Oh, a pig. Why did I say turkey? A peppermint pig that they would break when around the Christmas table when they had Christmas together. And I remember her sharing it with us and just listening to her voice as she talked about it, that it was something that they did every time and why she liked it. And if you think about, like, there are certain movies that you maybe watch, you can start those traditions with your own children. So Thanksgiving is tough enough, but we all know that the really big holiday in the United States tends to be Christmas. Every kid talks about Christmas, they think about it, they plan for it in advance, and maybe you do too. Maybe you think about what you're going to put in your kid's stocking, how you're going to decorate the house, and this Christmas you're not going to have your child with you. And that can be super heartbreaking. How should you respond? Well, just like Thanksgiving, you want to remember, don't make it a tragedy for your children. It's okay to say, oh, I'm going to miss you, but then you should add, you are going to have such a good time with mommy or with daddy. And don't worry, I'm going to be keeping all your presents here. And when you get back, you're going to be able to have another Christmas, and everything will be here waiting for you. And when you talk to your child, if you are able to talk with them over the holiday, keep it upbeat. Ask them, how's Christmas? Did you get to see Santa Claus? Did you, what did you do with daddy? How's grandma? Have them engaged in talking. So very young children usually can't maintain long telephone conversations. And I have seen a lot of parents that feel like, oh, the other parent doesn't want them to talk to me because they're wanting to run off 10 minutes after a call. Well, depending on how old the child is, if you're talking about a child that's 5, 7, 8 years old, 10 minutes might just be the length of the telephone call that they can maintain under the best of circumstances. And so when you do have your conversations with them, you want to focus on the good things going on in their life right then. Ask them about what they're doing, what they're excited about. And it's okay for you to say, oh, I'll be excited when you come home. But don't try to get your child focused on nothing but that. Now, Thanksgiving, I just told you, one parent pretty much gets the entirety of the holiday from the beginning to the end. We don't do Christmas like that. So, Christmas, whoever gets Christmas will get the child usually, and you want to compare your own decree, but we usually get the child from when Christmas is released for the holiday until noon on December 28th. Well, that's sometimes, depending on how the school holiday falls, not a whole lot of time. So you do get that great big day, but you're likely not to have them for a real long time after that. So if it's not your Christmas, keep in mind it's only a few days until you are going to see them. You can go ahead and wait, opening the stockings and presents until your kids get there. If your children are older or you don't want to do that, just make sure that you focus on what has made the holiday good for them. And don't talk to them about how sad you are. Talk to them about how happy you will be to see them. And once again, you want to make plans for yourself. Make sure that you don't leave yourself time to sit around feeling sorry for yourself. You've got people to go, people to see, plans to make, things to do. Set yourself some tasks and things for the holidays to keep you busy and looking forward to when you're going to have your children with you again. So what about leaving town for the holidays? Well, if the other parent is leaving town for the holidays, you might feel really upset about that, especially if the two of you have in the past worked together cooperatively to make sure that you both saw the kids a little for Christmas. But just remember that at some point, you're probably going to want to take the children out of town as well. And I would encourage you not to make a big deal about it if that happens, if the other parent's taking the child somewhere for Christmas. Just talk to the child about, what they're doing, how much fun they're having. You can, when they come home, you don't want to make them feel like you're interrogating them. There's a definite line, because we see that sometimes, right? Between talking to the child about what they did that was fun and enjoyable and trying to find out, what did you eat for dinner? Who was there? When did you go to bed? When was your bath? Your goal in talking to the child is not to fact check the other parent or verify that they're following all the rules. Is just to have give the child an opportunity to talk about the exciting things that they've done and to let them know you're okay with them being excited. It is okay with you if they're happy, and it doesn't hurt your feelings if they enjoy time that they have with the other parent. So that brings up a situation which unfortunately I also deal with a lot, and that is parents that are wondering, what do I do when the other parent has no interest in the child, or they're not calling up to talk to the child? Shall I have the child call them? I am going to give you advice that might be a little different than what you expect or what you might hear. But I feel like children are very attuned emotionally to the people around them. And if they are not wanted in a situation, the child can usually tell. So I would say if the other parent doesn't seem upset that they're not going to see the kid that Christmas or that Thanksgiving, don't be constantly bringing up that other parent to the child. Because when you do that, what you're doing is you're reminding them that somebody that should really love them, that somebody that should be missing them, maybe isn't thinking about them. So if you want to have the kids leave, just a 10-second message on voicemail saying, hey, wanted to call and say Merry Christmas, Mommy, and then hang up, that's fine. But if you've got a parent who's not involved, don't do more than that. Don't bring up the other parent to the child. You're making, remember, new holiday traditions that are going to feel complete to your child for you and them. And don't bring up the other parent. Don't be constantly dragging them into it. I see this sometimes where, one parent essentially is checking out and the other parent is always having the child call to say, hey, don't you want to tell daddy about how well you did on this test? And then the child's calling and being told, hey, talk to, your daddy and tell him. And the child can hear that the other parent is kind of distracted and not that excited. And what they learn is, hey, they really should be for me, and they're not. So if you're facing a holiday and the other parent has checked out, I would actually say bring them up as little as possible. Make traditions that are yours, that don't involve them. That child is going to remember that they have another parent. Maybe at some point that other parent is going to kind of, have a realization of what they're missing out on and try to re-enter. But in the meanwhile, you want that child to enjoy that holiday as much as possible, which means that you don't say, oh, I wish Daddy were here to see Santa Claus with us. No, you just say, oh my gosh, you're next to see Santa. Do you know what you're going to say? And there's no mention at all of somebody who's not there. Now, I will say that if you've always gone to see Santa together and the other parent wants to go see Santa, there's nothing wrong with your allowing them to do it. If you are in a new relationship, you do want to be sensitive to, are there going to be tensions there? Is everyone going to be comfortable? But I will say I have seen a number of families that successfully get together with new spouses and blended families on the holidays, and the children are happy that they're able to do it. Now, I've also heard stories from people who came from divorce about how terrible it was to have the parents together and nobody talking. So you only want to do that if you can present, a happy, unified front. But if you can, it's oftentimes a great experience for that child. Now, one of the more difficult things to deal with, honestly, is blended families. After the divorce is over, probably one or both of you is going to enter into a new relationship, And with that new relationship, there are frequently new siblings, step siblings that come, and they're in there too. And I would just really encourage you to talk to your child about that. And don't assume it's going to be a problem. It might not be a problem. But, like, let's say, for instance, every year you and your child go and pick out an ornament together for the tree. And, you're getting ready to, and this year there's going to be another child that's going to be there to pick out the ornament. And it's always just been the two of you. Talk to your child about that in advance. Say, hey, this year, so and so's going to be with us. We're going to have them, pick out the ornament too. Is that okay? Maybe some of those things you want to try to do early before the other children arrive. If it's something that's really special to you and your child, that's just the two of you. But it's a great thing to bring up with them. Let them know that you want it to be positive. Let them know that the presence of other children in the home doesn't mean that you love them less. Ideally, you can also tell them it won't affect the number of presents they get, but let them know that it's still a special day. It's a family day. You want them to be there, and they will have again, they're ideally going to take a lot of their cue from you. So if you are welcome to the fact that your new partner is going to have children there, likely your own children will follow suit. And if they don't, I am a big believer in therapists, actually, for any age. If you have a child that is having a really tough time, that is showing consistent signs of sadness or anger or acting in a way that you feel is just not normal, think about how difficult this situation is for you as a mature adult. And what can it, as difficult as it is for you, it might be that it's that much more difficult for your child. So if your child is having a tough time, you might want to talk to them about, hey, I'm going to take you to see so-and-so. They sometimes talk with kids who are upset. I noticed you've been upset a lot lately. And I think this would be a really good thing. Let's go in and visit with them. But be attuned to the fact that as difficult as it is for you, it might be difficult to your child too. So we're going to go in assuming, putting on a positive impression, presentation, and assuming that your child will be good with it, but being sensitive to the fact that maybe they won't be. Now, I will say that I think every divorced parent or newly separated parent, when they have that first holiday, they might have a moment or two where they just feel the need to have a good cry and mourn what's gone, right? Because even if you're the one wanting this divorce, you probably pictured a lot of Christmases and Thanksgiving with your partner and your children going on forever. And it was part of that family picture that you created for yourself. And even if you're the one filing, even if you know that this divorce is what you want, it's natural that you might have some time when you feel sad about it. And just know that it doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing the wrong thing. It just means that you're human, and this is a difficult time. So if you have a little bit of a hard time, try to set some time aside when you're not around your children. Go ahead and let yourself experience that emotion, experience that loss. Maybe look through those old photos at the times when things were going better, and then focus on what you might do in the future to make more positive, happy memories. So I hate to end on a downer note. I think the important thing is that you will survive this. Your child will survive this. Your child will actually probably have nothing but positive memories of Christmas overall that will override the negative things that are going on. Because your divorce is there before Christmas, right? Your divorce is there after Christmas. Your child isn't looking at this as the Christmas of divorce. Christmas is one positive thing that is coming in the middle of what's probably a lot of negative things. So you want to allow your child to be happy about it and encourage them and start making some new memories for some positive holidays in the future.